Welcome to Friends Online. My name is Kyle. I get to be one of our pastors at our Friends Orange location, and we are thrilled that you are joining us online for a very special weekend. It's Football Sunday. I know some of you may be watching not on a Sunday, but this is a massive weekend for us, not just as a church, but for the whole world. And one of the things that we would love is to get to know you as we go on this adventure today together. If you've never taken the time, if you're new or you have a moment, we'd love for you to fill out a digital Connect card. It's just a way that we can learn more about you and how we can serve you better as a church family. But today on this special weekend, not only are we going to take a deep dive into God's Word and hear what He wants to say to us today, but you're going to get to go behind the uniform of some of today's NFL players. You're going to get to hear their stories, their testimonies of faith, and how they trust and depend on God for everything that they walk through life. So we are thrilled that you are joining us because this is Football Sunday with Friends.
Satan fall like lightning. I saw darkness run for cover. Still the miracle that I just can't get over. My name is registered in heaven. I believe in signs and wonders. I have resurrection power. Still the miracle that I just can't get over. My name is registered in heaven. Yes, my praise belongs to you forever. This is my testimony from death to life. 'Cause grace rewrote my story. I'll testify. By Jesus Christ the righteous, I'm justified. This is my testimony. This is my testimony. Come together, sons and daughters, bought with blood and washed in water. Sing the praises of the Spirit, Son and Father. Our God will finish what He started. Yes, our God will finish what He started. This is my testimony from death to life. 'Cause grace rewrote my story, and I'll testify. By Jesus Christ the righteous, I'm justified. This is my testimony. This is my testimony. Greater things are still to come. Oh, I believe. If I'm not dead, you're not done. Greater things are still to come. Oh, I believe. If I'm not dead, you're not done. Greater things are still to come. Oh, I believe. If I'm not dead, you're not done. Greater things are still to come. Oh, I believe. If I'm not there, then you're not done. Greater things are still to come. Oh, I believe. If I'm not there, then
freshman year, University of Texas, college campus, Jester Hall, third floor, right outside of the elevator. Trevor Walker, that is third string quarterback, just waiting, reading his Bible. And so I stopped, and then maybe he stopped me, and we just start reading a little bit, talking a little bit, but it was at that point I said, okay, something's different about this guy. He said, if you want to be real about it, let's just be real about it. Let's live out our faith on this campus, on the football team with the guys. And it wasn't just me or him. We had about 10, 15, 20 guys on our team that wanted something more. The Spirit of God just erupted inside of me, and I felt like a lion. I felt like I was just a lion in those grounds. The men there had encountered Jesus. It was the last thing I ever would have expected going to a prison. And I still keep in touch with a bunch of those guys today from that prison. I went back the year after. It doesn't matter if you're black, if you're white, if you're in prison, if you're a football player, it doesn't matter who you are, God can restore and redeem. And I saw that with my own eyes. So I just signed a multi-year, multi-million-dollar contract in the NFL. I mean, it was like, yeah, we did it, man. God is good. Everything's gonna be okay. And it wasn't. Right around that time, just the seams started to fall apart in my life. My relationship with my wife, Ngazi, blessing, right? I wasn't loving her the way I was called to love her. Even with my kids, I found myself getting angry with them often or being anxious all the time. My parents just seemed like it was just a falling out with a lot of people, everyone and everything around me. And I was sitting down at a restaurant in Chicago with one of my buddies, and I finally just got a chance to tell him, I was like, dude, I'm struggling. I am not doing well at all. And as I'm sharing with him everything that was going on, I'm sharing, and I started to cry. And he looks at me and he says, it's really nice to see you, Sam. He said, as long as I've known you, I've never seen this side of you. I've always seen the smile and the jerseys, and I've never seen this side of you, but it's good to know that you're human. I don't know what I looked like, but I just was exhausted. I felt like I was carrying a lot of weight. And my teammate had walked in and he saw me. He says, hey, Acho, are you good? I looked at him and said, you know what? I'm not. He said, I don't know what's going on right now, Sam, but whatever it is, you need to let it out. I look at him and all of a sudden now I'm in the locker room now and the tears start to come. He looks at me, he says, hey, Ach, it's nice to see you. So many of us, we get trapped and caught, and God's like, no, I see you. Let me move this weight off you. The weight I've been trying to carry was this weight of perfection. Right? I have it all together. I have all the answers. I'm the star. I'm the guy. I'm great. And God's like, I didn't have you to carry that. I want you to get to know me and to spend time with me. That's all I want. I am enough, not you. I am enough. It is so easy to pretend, to act like we have it all together and put on our, these figurative masks that we wear and be like, yeah, I'm fine, or I'm good. It's so easy. But God is not a God of pretending. God is a God of freedom. The Bible talks about taking up your cross daily and following me. Am I going to take up my cross and be real, be authentic? Or am I going to pretend and act like I got it all together and act like I have all the answers? It's a daily decision.
It's nice to see you, Sam. It's nice to see you. One of the most powerful things in life is to be seen, to feel loved and valued, to be given a sense of hope because all of a sudden you're seen, you're known, you're cared for. I remember when people have done that for me through my life. I remember when I was younger, there was a coach who saw me, who believed in me when no one else did. I remember there's been many times throughout the course of my almost 23 years of marriage that my wife would see me, that she'd remind me of who I am and remind me of who I'm called to be. I remember when Matthew Cork, the senior pastor of Friends Church, saw me and believed in me. What about you? Maybe there's been someone in your life that saw you at one of your most desperate moments and called you into something powerful. Maybe this past year, as we've been walking through this pandemic, one of the hardest years any of us could possibly imagine, maybe there's been a moment of hope where somebody saw you. Or maybe today, you're watching, and maybe today you're hoping and you're waiting to be seen. You want someone to see you because you feel alone and desperate, and you want to feel known and seen and loved. I'm so glad you're with us today as we continue this journey because I believe that Jesus sees you. We're going to look at one of the compelling things about Jesus as he was moving through his ministry and through the world. He always had a habit of seeing people. He would see people for who they were, regardless of who they were in status. He would see people that were powerful and rich and influential, see people that were selfish or arrogant or judgmental, and he would identify that in them. But he would also see the people that were alone and forgotten, people on the fringe of society. See people that were desperate and hurting and lost, and he would move towards them. He would see them in a way that the world didn't. And so the question became, are they ready to acknowledge who Jesus is? And where are they going to place their faith? You see, that's the point of Jesus seeing people, is it becomes a powerful invitation. And we see one of these encounters in John chapter 5. The beginning, Jesus has been teaching and calling disciples and healing people. And then it says this in John chapter 5, verse 1, afterward, Jesus returned to Jerusalem for one of the Jewish holy days. Inside the city, near the sheep gate, was the pool of Bethesda with 5 covered porches. Crowds of sick people, blind, lame, or paralyzed, they lay on these porches. And let me give you a little bit of context. It says this is one of the Jewish holy days. There's a massive festival taking place in Jerusalem. And so crowds, thousands of people from the surrounding area would have been packing into the city. And just outside that city gates, the temple gates, there was these pools. And these pools, there would be hundreds of people lying around them. And tradition said that when the pools were stirred, that an angel would stir them and bubbles would come from the bottom. And the first person in the pool after that water was stirred would be healed, which is why they would lay around these porches. So that's where we find Jesus in this moment. And verse 5 says that one of the men lying there had been sick for 38 years. When Jesus saw him and knew he'd been ill for a long time, he asked him, "Would you like to get well?" Jesus saw him. Think about it, thousands of people packing into the city, hundreds lying around this pool, but Jesus saw him. And you can imagine that moment where that man that had been lying there for 38 years all of a sudden locks eyes with Jesus. And certainly he couldn't have been following him around, but I'm sure he had heard about who he was and about what was possible. And in that moment as they locked eyes, I bet he felt seen in a way that he never had before. I bet he felt loved and he felt valuable. I bet he had hope in a way that he hadn't in so long because Jesus saw him. And then, of course, Jesus asked this really interesting question. Would you like to get well? And at first, I don't know about you, but it seems almost offensive. It seems like a ridiculous question with an obvious answer. Jesus, don't you see where I am? Don't you see what's happening? There are hundreds of people lying around desperate. You know I've been lying here for 38 years. What do you want me to do for you? Would you like to get well? Of course I would. It seems ridiculous. Maybe it was more of an honest question. You see, some in that day, they leveraged illness to beg and just to make a living so they wouldn't have to work. Many had chased these man-made ways to be healed. They would go to fortune tellers or psychics or lay around the pool hoping for their opportunity to go in when the water was stirred. But knowing Jesus, I don't think it was an offensive or ridiculous question, probably an honest question, but more likely a very gentle question. A question about this man's faith. What or who are you trusting in to heal you? Would you like to get well? And would you like me to heal you? In verse 7, the man says, I can't, sir. I can't, said the sick man, for I have no one to put me into the pool when the water bubbles up. Someone always gets there before me. For 38 years, this man had trusted in this pool day after day, showing up, lying around, waiting for his moment, but someone always got there before him. Day after day, month after month, year after year, waiting, hoping, preparing, planning. Maybe today's the day. Maybe he had lost hope. Maybe he had given up on hope. Or maybe sometimes he had just decided to live with the bondage of brokenness and let go of the hope that was possible, even the hope standing right before him. Oftentimes we choose just to stay in the shadows, just to keep lying around the pool because it's comfortable, it's safe, it's what we know, it's what we settle for. We place our faith or our trust in man-made solutions just like this guy did. We try and control or use our own power or our own strength or our own wisdom or our own intellect or power to be able to find the healing we're longing for in life. We place our hope, our faith in all of those things. And then if we can't solve it, then we'll just choose to medicate it. Maybe if I could just numb the pain, the desperation, the loneliness, the isolation, whatever it might be. But there was something about the question that day, a gentle invitation to honesty, to come out of hiding. Would you want to get well? To trust and place his faith where he had never placed it before, in Jesus. You see, Jesus knew that he'd been in this condition a long time, and it wasn't about the man's attempts or his desires or his longings. It wasn't survival of the fittest anymore. It wasn't just for some. It was an invitation for this man. It's an invitation for all of us. Do you want to get well? You see, Jesus saw that this man had done all he could do. He had the will to be healed. He just didn't have a friend to help him. And he was about to experience the power of a real friend, the power of placing your faith in Jesus. Jesus told him, stand up, pick up your mat and walk. Instantly, the man was healed. He rolled up his sleeping bag and he rolled up his mat and he began walking. Jesus saw him. Jesus loved him. Jesus healed him in that moment. Life beyond imagine became possible. Life like no one else had ever promised. For 38 years, you can imagine the man had waited for that moment. And it's interesting because when was the man healed? You see, faith allowed him to get up and walk in it. Jesus had already had the power. He already laid it out. He had made the promise. But the man had to actually get up and walk, roll his mat, and walk out of there together. He had to put his faith in Jesus. And Jesus did in that moment what 38 years of lying around that pool could never do. He gave him life beyond imagine. And he walked away with a faith from that pool that he'd been waiting for, into a new life that he had always longed and always hoped for. So the question is, do you want to get well? The question is, where are you placing your faith? What is it in your life? The brokenness, the sadness, the loneliness, the desperation, the physical healing that you've been longing for, the relational distance that exists between you and someone you love or someone that loves you. Where do you need to get well in your life? And where are you placing your faith to bring the healing that you need? Hebrews chapter 11, verse 1 says this about faith. Faith is the confidence in what we hope for and the assurance about what we don't see. It hinges on these two words, confidence and assurance. Confidence there literally means the reality, the substance, the foundation that you stand on. Assurance simply means evidence. It's proof. It's a deep conviction that it's true. It's the expectation of what we hope will happen will actually happen. Sort of my simplified translation of that verse, faith is the conviction that what is promised is what will be experienced. Faith is the conviction that what is promised will be experienced. That's the invitation that Jesus gave that man. That's the invitation that Jesus gives every single one of us. Where are you placing your faith? Because he gives so many promises of new life, of hope, of strength, of comfort, of forgiveness, of peace for our lives. And that's the invitation. Where are you placing your faith? Because just like that first century pool, there's so many options that we can place our faith in. We can place our faith, our hope in money or in power and wealth, in position or title or influence. We begin to think, well, if I have more money, if I have more relationships, if I have bigger companies or a bigger home, or all that, I can buy my way out of problems. And yet we know that's not true. We believe that we can find hope and healing, place our faith in different things in this world, that somehow that the psychics or the fortune tellers of tomorrow are going to tell us and give us hope for today. But that's not true. It never has been. We can hope in ourselves, our own power, our own intellect, our own wisdom, our own strength, but we know at the end of the day, all of these things are temporary. All of these things will fail us. Where are you placing your faith? And do you want to get well? That's the invitation that Jesus gives us. Only God, only Jesus sees you today. He sees you. He knows all of the issues and the pain and the sadness and the grief and the loneliness and the depression and the anxiety that you're feeling. He knows all the ways that you've tried to manage the guilt or the shame or the fear that you've walked through life with. He knows the distance and the separation in the relationships that you have. He sees you today. And he's looking at you and asking this gentle question: would you like to get well? And are you willing to place your faith in him? Are you willing to allow his healing love and power to walk you through every circumstance in life that you will face?
One of her friends was dating one of my teammates, and she would come to the field. You know, I was able to take her on a date, and then from there on, you know, you give me the chance, then it's over from there. And so we've been together since my junior year. I've been a headache probably, but you know, she loves me, I love her, and she's a special girl. From there on, we were trying to get pregnant. We knew we wanted to start a family right away once we got married. And so we were trying since 18, and you know, it wasn't going too well. For both of us, like, we just gotta keep having faith. Well, unfortunately, you know, they said we wasn't gonna be able to have kids naturally, you know, because their tubes were messed up, and so we had to remove those. So then I'm like, oh, wait a minute. When you hear that, I'm like, then how can you have kids? Over 100 shots for the egg retrieval, and once we did that, she still had to stay on the shots to trick the body, saying that, you know, she's pregnant. And there was hundreds of more shots. We went to New Zealand in January, right after the season. And she had had her shots, her syringes. Just if she missed a day or two, really a day, then it messed up the process. You know, she's getting shots on the plane. She's like, oh, it's whatever time it is, I gotta go do my shot. We're on the plane. We land, gotta do my shots. And I'm like, I mean, all I can do is just comfort her, really. In the process that women have to go through that do the IVF, they're warriors. There's without a doubt. And we get the call, and they're like, well, and we're like, oh, they go, you know, you're pregnant. And we're like, wow. But then we look at each other like, really? Like, this the way we find out? Like, naturally, like, okay, take a pregnancy test. So then we get home, she's like, I'm still taking a pregnancy test. We're still gonna take the photo for memory. We head over to the hospital. It's about 3 a.m. now. And on our note, she goes, if I ask for epidural, that's just because I'm in pain. Encourage me not to get it. So we get to the point, she's like, I want the shot. I'm reading off the notes. Like, you told me, like, you got this. No, I want it. I'm like, okay. The love that Christ has for us, that God has for us, was magnified when I had my own child. I now understand, like, it's no brainer why God loves us so much now. It's just a different meaning now. It's a different meaning.
Lead me by still waters, cover me in mercies. Speak of all your promise, show me that you're near. If no one walks beside me, you are always with me. Walk me through the valley, resting in your peace.
We have a God who sees us, who loves us, who heals us, and who will never fail or abandon us. My prayer, my hope for you today is that you are choosing to place your faith in Him. And if you're alone and you would love to know more about what that might look like, we would love to hear from you. Feel free to reach out. We would love to pray for you. We would love to connect with you as we walk out our stories of faith together. One of the things that we believe is that we get to bring the hope and the love of Jesus in tangible ways to people around us. We get to bring hope into the world. And the way that that happens is through generosity. And so I want to invite you guys to be part of the story that God is writing with us here at Friends. As we love our frontline healthcare workers and first responders, as we love the poor and the lost and the needy and the forgotten and the under-resourced in our communities. And so I invite you guys, you can just text that number below and be part of that story of hope and healing that God is writing through Friends. Next weekend, I want you to come back. I would love for you to join us as we begin a whole new series on what does it look like for God and His power to walk us through the most difficult circumstances in life. Maybe some of you are facing obstacles that you feel like you're never going to be able to crash through. You will find hope in this next series. So we look forward to seeing you guys. We're praying for you this week.